Welcome to the Daily Word, verse by verse. Grab your Bibles and follow along as we continue in our study through the Gospel of John. Keep in mind I'm using the Holman Christian Standard Bible, so if you're using a different translation, the read is different, the message is the same. We're going to pick up our study in chapter 9. And verse 1 says, as he was passing by, and remember this as he's passing by was right after he had escaped an attempted stoning by the Jews when he declared that before Abraham was, I am. And the Jews were incensed by that because they knew that Jesus was declaring that he was the very God of Israel manifested in the flesh. And so it said that he was passing by, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples questioned him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Now, it's important we understand the question. Okay? There were two common beliefs. One, that children suffered for the sins of the parents, meaning that they were held accountable for the sins of the parents. So if your parent murdered someone, then you would suffer as a murderer yourself. And the scriptures is clear that a child or children cannot be held responsible for their parents' sin, that everyone has to be held accountable for their own sins. Now, the other commonly held belief is that a child could sin in the mother's womb. Now, how is that possible? No one knew, but they held that belief. And apparently the apostles or the disciples held that belief because they are asking Jesus, who sinned, his parents or the child, that he was born blind? In other words, as a direct result of somebody sinning, this man was born blind. Excuse me. Verse 3. Neither this man nor his parents sinned. So that he answers that question. He spells both. Neither one has sinned, Jesus answered. This came about so that God's works might be displayed in him. Now, what we have here is kind of a language issue. And as we have said before in previous chapters, that we don't have the benefit of the culture. We don't have the benefit of inflection. Okay? But what we do know is that Jesus came to reveal God's grace and mercy and love. So when you look at something like this, it seems like Jesus is saying, if we take it in this most literal sense, that God arranged for this man to be born blind, or caused this man to be born blind, so that 20, 30, or 40 years later, Jesus can happen to come by and then heal the man and then get glory from that. And I don't believe that that's what this is saying here. Jesus had been healing plenty of blind people during his ministry up until this time and getting glory for that. So why would he need this specific case? So it doesn't make sense. I just think, again, we need to understand the kind of language dynamic here. So verse 4, we must work the works. We must do the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. And sidebar note that the light continues through his believers. Verse 6. After he said these things, he spit on the ground and made some mud from saliva and spread the mud on his eyes. Go, he told them, wash in the pool of Siloam, which means sent. So he left, washed, and came back seeing. Now, this is a wonderful thing, right? I mean, think about it. This man was blind all of his life, and he is seen for the first time, right? He's looking at colors, looking at shapes and sizes, looking at people. This should be a momentous, people should be shouting, right? Now, verse 8, his neighbors and those who formerly had seen him as a beggar said, isn't this the man who sat begging? Now that's amazing, because oftentimes you hear people say, if we just had a miracle, well, they just had one, and they're skeptical, they're doubting. And that's what happened with human nature. You don't want to believe, you just won't believe, no matter what a miraculous sign happens. Verse 9, some said, he's the one. No, others were saying, but he looks like him. Right? So if you were there and you saw the man who sat begging, now however his eyes looked, the only difference would be he now has eyes and he's seeing. He's excited. But he kept saying, I'm the one. So everybody's looking at him, doubting their own sight. That's the ironic thing here, that they're doubting their own sight. Verse 10, therefore they asked him, then how were your eyes open? If you're the one, how do you see? You were born blind. Verse 11, he answered, the man called Jesus made mud, spread it on my eyes, and told me, go to Siloam and wash. So I went and washed, and I received my sight. Now he's going to tell this over and over again, but it's going to be to the point of always trying to explain to someone who's being skeptic. Verse 12, where is he? They asked. Now this is the crowd. This is those who's standing around. These are people who know him. I don't know, he said. Therefore they brought the man who used to be blind to the Pharisees. Now that's amazing. Now think about this. Instead of rejoicing with this man, they ushered this man to the Pharisees. Now it's going to become clear, and we have been seeing all along, that the Pharisees have put out this standing order. Let me read this again. He's going to say this in the story again. That anyone who aligns themselves with Jesus is going to be excommunicated, put out of the synagogue, banned from the temple. Now, verse 14, the day that Jesus made the mud and opened his eyes was the Sabbath. Now, so this is going to be the issue again here. Verse 15, so again, the Pharisees asked him how he received his sight. He put mud on my eyes, he told them. I wash and I can see. So so the Pharisees are grilling him right now. They're interrogating him. Now, from the Pharisees' standpoint, excuse me, they don't know what to do with this man, because he's their worst enemy. He's a living testimony to what they have been trying to destroy. And the more they have tried to destroy the reputation and the character of Jesus, here comes this man. And this is kind of a step up, because this man was born blind. They can't even say, well, maybe he had temporary blindness, right? No, this man was born blind. Everyone testified that he was born blind. He had been sitting in the place begging. That's what they would kind of do. Since he couldn't make a living, he couldn't work the fields. When they got grown, they would just bring him to the corner in the city someplace, and he would just sit and beg. And everybody knew that. And now this man is healed because their arch enemy, Jesus, has healed them. So he tells them, I wash and I can see. Now we'll get their response, this ongoing interrogation. And one of the most interesting things about this is that this simple man, this unlearned man, will show an unshakable faith. And they're going to throw everything they can at him, but he is going to show an unshakable faith. We'll get that reply in verse 16 next time, so I'll see you then.